Today, I want to talk about what's changed in digital publishing. I wrote myself a few notes here about what I wanted to talk about here. I want to talk about what's changed in digital publishing since 2011. And I think you're going to get something out of this video because a lot's changed since 2011, but also there's a lot of things that haven't changed since 2011. So stick around. I think I'm going to have some value to add for your lives. If not, that's okay. Depends on where you're at in life. Maybe you weren't going to get anything out of this, but if you're in business and you're motivated to succeed, I think you'll probably get something out of this call. So, anyways, I usually do these from my van, and I thought I'd try something different. I'm doing this from my little home office work area. This is where I'm recording this from where I do most of my work in my business right now. Um, but I thought I'd try it here today. I don't know, I might go back to the van. Sometimes I like to get, like, some separation from where I work when I record these videos for you. But, I'm in the middle of working right now, so I thought, I hadn't done one of these yet today, and I wanted to talk to you today, so I thought I'd just record this one here. Um, so what's changed in digital publishing since 2011? Let me give you some context for this. Why do I say 2011? I say 2011 because that's when I got into online business in 2011. I was fired from my job in 2010, August 2010. Um, Went back to college, community college, in October of 2010. And while I was going to college, I realized I could sell used books on Amazon, and I started selling used books, and that was my first real online money making venture, really, truly. I could go farther back to some eBay stuff I did a long time ago, but I won't go into that. My first money making stuff really happened in 2011, so that's where I got started. And you know, by 2012, I was selling used books full time. I was running a membership club, 2 membership clubs, in fact. By 2012, 2013, I was running 2 membership clubs. Hello, Rico. How you doing, buddy? Um, I was running 2 membership clubs by 2012, 2013. I was running 2 YouTube channels. They were funneling traffic to those membership clubs. I was selling digital ebooks on Amazon KDP. I had my hands in a little bit of everything, right? I was doing a lot. Um, so this was 2012, 2013, and I did that for a while. Got a lot of experience launching digital products. In 2016, I started Epic Conversions, right? And that's the same digital publishing company that I run to this day, Epic Conversions. Um, and if you're interested in Epic Conversions, you can find more information out about Epic Conversions at epicconversions.com. I will say you're finding me at a unique moment in history for Epic Conversions because I'm approaching the 10-year anniversary of Epic Conversions in March this year, and right now, as we speak, I'm at infrastructure zero, and that's just a little weird word that I made up. And what that basically means is I don't have anything for sale right now. Nothing is for sale. All of my membership clubs have been closed, and I have nothing on the market for sale right now. So I'm in a transitional period right now, actually. I am right in the middle. I'm getting ready to amp something new up. It's still going to be Epic Conversions, but it's a little bit of a pivot. I don't even know if pivot's the right word. It's just a little bit different than what I've been doing. But in order to start this new thing, I had to close all the old stuff down. So Big Andy Lehman in the house. What is up, Andy? Enjoyed your content yesterday. I was reading your article yesterday. It was really good. I can't remember exactly what it was about, but I remember it being good, and I commented on it. Um, but anyways, any of you guys out there watching this, make sure you get over there, check out Andy Lehman. He has some good content over here on Substack. Um, so anyways, yeah, that's some context for me. And Epic Conversion's been running since 2016 to this day. I'm in a little bit of a really interesting period because of this infrastructure zero that I put into place. It's really crazy. It's a really weird feeling, to be honest with you. It is a really weird feeling for me to not have anything for sale on the market. It's very strange. Um, But anyway, so that's a little context. That's where I come from. So I've been in this online selling world since 2011. Um, so before I tell you what has changed over the last, what is that, man? Like 15 years or something like that. Like it's crazy. It went by fast. I'll tell you that. Before I tell you what's changed in the last 15 years or so, 16 years, I'll tell you what hasn't changed, and that's kind of really important because what hasn't changed can help you right now, and what hasn't changed is the fundamentals, right? And when we talk about what has not changed, it really comes down to like human psychology. It really comes down to like, well, what makes a human buy something? What makes a person want something? What makes a human being desire something? Whether they're going to trade for it, whether they're going to steal it, whether they're going to pull out their wallet and pay for it with cash, whether they're going to pull out their credit card and pay for it with a credit card, like what makes someone want something? Like those fundamentals, they haven't changed. And the reason why they haven't changed is because we haven't really changed. Human beings, for all of our new technology and for all of our new advancements over the years, I mean, we're still not that much different than those caveman ancestors of ours. I mean, we still have the same biological triggers that they had thousands of years ago. And don't take my word for any of this stuff. Look it up for yourself. You can find out what I'm saying to be true. But that's comforting in a way because, you know, so much does change on the internet. As we play this, digital marketing game, as we run online businesses, so much changes. Man, it's really easy to get overwhelmed and kind of lost in this like sea of change. It gets frustrating. You're like, man, why do things keep on changing? This sucks. I liked it better 5 years ago when things were like this, or I liked it better when I first got started when things were like that. So it gets frustrating the way things constantly are changing and evolving and stuff like that. For some people, really like change. Some people love like the fact that things are always getting shifted around. But for some people, that's overwhelming. That's frustrating that things are constantly changing. And for all you guys, whether you like it or you don't like it, I always look at it like this. You got to keep your eye on the ball. And the ball in this case is the fact that we try to sell to real humans. And the real humans, like the things that make them buy stuff, that hasn't really changed. It hasn't changed since I've been here in 2011. And I doubt it's changed since before that because I read all these old timers. I read a lot of the older stuff, the old literature. I'm reading a book right now called um, um, you can't see it, but this is actually an autographed copy of Marketing to the Affluent by Thomas Stanley. It's a really good book. All right. Really cool book. But this is an autographed copy. I got this. You can see right there, autograph, Thomas Stanley. Pretty cool. But this was written, many years ago. Many years ago. Uh, you know, and if someone was alive in that time, and let me see, I'll tell you exactly when this was written. I think it was like in the 80s when this came out, 1988. This came out in 1988. And you know, if someone in 1988 was doing marketing in 1988, and like now they're in 2025, they would say, wow, things have changed a lot. But if you talk to somebody like, like Dan Kennedy, or you talk to somebody like that, they would say, yeah, but it hasn't really changed that much. That like the fundamentals are still pretty much the same. The same things that made people want to buy in 2000 in 1988, those same triggers still apply to people today, right? Um, that being said, a lot has changed, right? A lot has changed, and because a lot has changed, it changes our approach sometimes. I'll tell you some of the things that really have stood out to me, and they are changing my approach to how I want to do my marketing, how I want to do my online business. So the first thing that I tell you is attention spans. Attention spans have changed. Um, and I haven't done a survey, okay? This is all anecdotal. I'm just telling you what I have observed throughout my marketing career. Attention spans have changed, man. Like in 2011, when I first came on, it wasn't nothing for someone to give out like a video workshop for a lead magnet. You know, people would give out like a lead magnet. It would be like a 7-day video workshop. And, it would be like you'd get another day of the workshop every day. Like every day you'd get an email of the next part of the workshop. And it would be like a 7-day thing. Not very effective lead magnet today. People are just lost. They don't have the attention span for it. In fact, I remember 2011 signing up. I think it was like a Ryan Dice, workshop, and it was like I think it was like 5 videos, and they didn't come every day. A video, it was like you get a video by email, and then it'd be like, all right, keep an eye on your inbox. Over the next 2 or 3 days, I'm going to send you another video. I'm going to send you a link to the next part of this training, right? So it would be like this process over like a week or two to get like the 5-day event or whatever. And like it was fine, it worked. It worked on me, and it probably worked on a lot of other people. But in 2026 now, I don't know that people have the attention spans for that. I mean, people are getting bombarded by so much stuff. Like there's so much information out there bombarding them. There's so many different ways for them to get distracted. I don't know that they have the attention span for that. So like the way that, we try to do lead acquisition, I think that's changed a little bit. Like the long form kind of video workshop, it's not as effective because and this will be something else that changes over time, but it's because of like perceived value, right? I don't think that in 2011 when I first started, people saw brevity as a perceived value, right? And value is such a funny word, man. Value is such a funny word because, you know, it's so subjective. You know what I mean? Like different things are valuable at different times. In 2011, when I first got started, get the more information that you were going to give me. Oh, wow. It's a 5-day video workshop. This is amazing. Back in 2011, like video was perceived to be of higher value than like a special report, right? But in 2026, I don't really know that's the case anymore because the value that people started putting on brevity, you know, and that kind of relates back to attention span. Why do people value things that are brief? Why do people value things that are succinct, that get to the point quickly? Why do they value it? Because their attention spans have gotten smaller. They got that TikTok brain, you know what I mean? Or whatever you want to call it. They got it. And you see like YouTube pushing the shorts, you see TikTok's rise, you see like the Instagram reels, people are fans of this short form video and whatever it is, whether it's a short form video, whether it's, just a 24-hour news cycle, whatever it is, whether it's smartphones, probably has a lot to do with it. Smartphones constantly like binging people with notifications, whether it's the social media platforms constantly running psychological triggers to keep people on those platforms, whatever they got to do, whether it's sound, whether it's visuals, whatever they got to do to keep people on the platform, they run it all. I mean, it might as well be an online casino the way these social media platforms operate. So attention spans are at an all-time low, right? So the way that we choose to market to people, and this is really about when we talk about lead acquisition, we're talking about grabbing someone's attention. When it comes to me putting someone on my list, just getting someone to stop, like a stop sign, getting someone to see the stop sign, and then what do I do with that 5 seconds of attention that I've just, bought from them? That is like the next step. But the first step is that getting that 5 seconds of attention. And it's harder now than it was in 2011 because of the attention span thing. So attention spans have changed. And that is something that is not insignificant. It does matter. Another thing that's changed is details, right? Details have changed. 2026, I mean, I could go back to 2019 and it was much easier to sell PLR in 2019, okay? And in 2011, it was even easier to sell PLR. It was very easy to sell PLR in 2012, 2013, 2014, okay? In 2026, it's much harder to sell PLR. Why? Details, right? Because the reason why PLR was valuable to people is because it saved them time, right? I don't have to do it. I will outsource that work to you. You can do it. I will buy the PLR for my content. Well, the people who outsource the content to PLR creators before, they don't have to do that anymore. Now they can just go to like AI and have content created for them. So it's much harder to sell licensed content now. It's not impossible. You can totally do it. There's still people out there who, sell licensed content to people who prefer the genuine article. And rightly, they should prefer the genuine article. But you got to understand something. If 100% of a group of people all bought licensed content before, and then all of a sudden something comes out that does like free licensed content. And oh, by the way, there's no license. You can just do whatever you want with this. Yeah, like a percentage of your group is gonna go and do that. Right? You got 100 people, like a percentage of that 100 people is gonna move on to get AI to do this stuff for them. So you're gonna lose business. That's what that is. And what is that business loss that we're dealing with? We're talking about details. The details changed. The tech has changed since 2011. AI has changed since 2011. Funnels, the way people run their funnels. I mean, you could say that's changed a little bit since 2011. I think it's gotten a lot easier to run funnels since 2011. You know what I mean? Some of these things used to be harder, I remember my first membership club. It's called Adventures on the River. And, I ran it from WordPress. I ran it from a WordPress site. I used a plugin called Paid Membership Pro. And, Paid Membership Pro is free. You can still, to this day, you can get Paid Membership Pro for WordPress for free. And the way they ran their deal was, no, you don't get any support. This is a free plugin, but if you want support for it, that's you got to buy the package, and the package is like, I don't know what it was. It was like $80 or something like that. But that was like 2000 when I started that membership club. It was like 2012, I think, 2013, and it was like why was I doing the WordPress plugin for my membership club? Because I didn't know what the hell I was doing, and that seemed like the easy way to go. It seemed easy. It seemed easier anyway. Nothing was easy for me back in 2011 because I'm not a techie person, and all of it seemed difficult. It was very like I felt like I was like trying to educate myself and trying to start a membership club at that time. It was like two things happening. I was trying to learn stuff just to open it up. It's like you know what it was like? It was like I had a bunch of stuff sitting on my lawn, right? And I needed a garage to put all my stuff in. But the only problem is I don't know how to build a garage, okay? So where the hell am I going to put all this stuff? Okay? So it was basically me like sitting on my lawn watching YouTube videos about how to build a garage and then running off and buying supplies and like trying to build the garage as I was watching the YouTube video on how to build the garage. It was crazy because I was building the garage to put all my stuff in the garage, but I had to learn how to build a garage so I could have somewhere to put my stuff. That's how it was for me trying to run a membership club back in 2011, 2012. Yeah, 2012, 2013, more like it. But it was cool. It was fine. I got it done, but yeah, it was harder. Today it's easier. So the details have changed, and a lot of things are easier. A lot of things are easier than they were back then. So that kind of leads me into my next point, barriers to entry. Barriers to entry are much lower today. The barriers to entry for a lot of things are lower. That's not necessarily a good thing. I mean, like, man, back in 2011, yeah, I would have loved to have some of the tools we have today to start membership clubs. It would have made my life a lot easier. But the problem is, like, with that lower barrier to entry, competition increases dramatically, right? It increases dramatically. And there's no better place to see the kind of competition I'm talking about than all you have to do is look at content marketing. Content marketing has been a prominent way to get traffic to your properties since I started in business in 2011. Content marketing. Oh, you're on a limited budget? You don't want to spend a bunch of money on traffic? Okay, cool. Let's do some free content marketing, right? That's been big ever since I have been in business. content marketing has been a critical way to get business, especially if you had a low budget and you didn't want to spend any money on ads. Um, the problem now is the barrier to entry for content marketing is like not very high at all. It's very, very low. And the reason it's so low is because AI, right? AI, they say, "Oh, AI has democratized content. AI has democratized content." You know what that is? That's code for like the everyone can create content now. So what happens? There's like 10 times as much content being dumped on the market. And think about this. Why were people doing content marketing to begin with? To get attention, right? They were doing content marketing to get attention, to position themselves as the authority, and to ultimately sell things to people, right? Well, if you've democratized content and now everybody can do content and there's 10 times as much content being dumped on the market, then guess what? You're not going to get as much attention from content. It's just the way it is. You're going to have a lot more nice, solid pieces of content being dumped on the market that don't get any attention. Why? Because simply they're getting buried. They're getting buried in a sea of content. Some of it's good, some of it's bad. You know, it doesn't matter if you like get AI to write your content and like you like, oh, let me humanize this content. Man, I got AI to write this content for me, and I got another AI who I've trained on humanizing content. So now I got an AI agent linking them both together so I don't have to do shit. Right? That's how people think, man. That's like the easy button syndrome, the easy money button syndrome. You're gonna have like AIs, writing the content and AIs humanizing the content, AI agents, linking them both together and pushing your content out on 50 platforms. And it's like you lose the plot at some point. At some point, you've lost the plot. But regardless of how you're doing it, people are doing it with AI. And because so many people are doing it with AI, what happens is content becomes less effective at, getting attention because there's too much content. People can't consume it all. People cannot consume it all. They can't even find you half the time, you know? So that's changed a lot, and that's just one example of barrier to entry. There's a lot of examples I could give you about barriers to entry. But the main point that I'm trying to make is as like tech gets better and it becomes easier to do things, you have more competition, right? So with less barrier to entry, the easier that something is, the more competition you have doing it, right? Now, there's always going to be people who do things better than other people, right? There's always going to be somebody who rises to the top. What I'm saying is the less competition you have, the easier it is to rise to the top. You know what I mean? You don't have to be the most talented, person if you're the only person doing something. But when everybody is doing it, you have to be, much more talented. And so that's what I would say about that. So, and then another thing that I would say that's changed is, perceptions, right? Perceptions are always changing. Even though I told you at the beginning of this, that, you know, what causes someone to buy hasn't really changed. You know, the same things that cause people to buy, back in the 1800s, the same kind of things that cause people to buy now. Something you desire, something that captivates you, something not necessarily that you need, but something that you want. Now you could say, oh, well, Cam, what about shovels? You know, people go to hardware stores and they buy shovels. They don't want shovels. They don't desire shovels. It's just they need it. It's practical. Yeah, okay, but what hardware store do you go to buy your shovel? That's not based on need, that's based on want. Unless there's only one hardware store, within like 100-mile radius of your house, and then maybe that's just like you're just stuck getting what you get. But if you have any kind of choice whatsoever, then that choice is gonna be based on not necessarily what you need, but what you want. And that's gonna be based on your biases. And we go back when we talk about biases, we're talking about human triggers, and that's psychology. And like I said, that kind of stuff has been around for a really, really long time, long before I've been alive, definitely long before I started doing, marketing on the internet. So again, the fundamentals haven't changed, but a lot of things have. Perceptions have changed, you know? I remember a few years ago when TikTok was all the rage, and I know that people like TikTok and, it's kind of I've never personally been on TikTok. I don't do TikTok. But I know a lot of people do, and a lot of people like TikTok, and that's cool, no big deal. But, I remember a few years ago they were saying, "Oh, man, TikTok is the YouTube killer. TikTok is gonna destroy YouTube," right? None of that was true. I mean, none of that has ever been true. That never even came close to being true, by the way. YouTube, gets about 30 billion visitors a month. 30 billion visitors a month. And I was just reading recently that, the number one way that people are viewing YouTube right now is on their televisions. Yeah, it's on their televisions. So, like, in 2026, you're gonna see YouTube leaning hard into, like, kinda like longer programming that's more like television programming, like half-hour shows and hour-long shows. So keep that in mind if you wanna start doing, YouTube. They're gonna be leaning into stuff like that. They know. I read that from a YouTube, based article. So, they absolutely know that, people are consuming YouTube on television. No one's consuming TikTok on television, okay? There's like a television or 3 in every home in United States of America, and that doesn't even include in the UK and Australia and everywhere else that has televisions. But all people are buying televisions. They all are smart televisions now. They're all smart TVs, and they all come with YouTube packaged into them. So it's crazy. But the point is, YouTube, a few years ago when that was going on, YouTube was getting like 30 billion visitors a month, and they still are. But, TikTok was not. TikTok wasn't even close. TikTok is getting like 2 or 3 billion visitors a month. I'm not saying that's not good. That's fantastic. That's one of the top social media platforms, but it's not on the same level, man. It's not even close to being on the same. There's a huge difference between 3 billion visitors a month and 30 billion visitors a month. It's 10 times the amount of people a month hitting that place, right? So what I'm saying is TikTok never came close to being any kind of YouTube killer, especially because that was before YouTube implemented YouTube Shorts, right? Once they implemented YouTube Shorts, they were never gonna catch catch them. It's a wrap. YouTube does stuff like that. They put out YouTube Shorts to compete with platforms like TikTok, and what did they do? They started pushing Shorts. They're doing it right now. They're pushing Shorts right now. Man, I can get so many views on YouTube just by putting Shorts out, right? Why? They're incentivizing their creators to put Shorts out. Why? Because they're trying to compete with these short form content, platforms. But the point is, they guard their traffic, and they guard their community. Their community is not the right word. Their market, you could say. Man, they're jealous, right? They are jealous. They treat it. They are serious about it. Another platform is serious about it like that is Amazon. I've seen Amazon decimate small businesses just to keep everybody shopping on Amazon. That's a story for another day, but happens all the time. You'd be surprised how cutthroat these big companies are. And I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm just saying that's business. That's how it is. But yeah, YouTube, man, YouTube. I mean, they have no challengers in the video marketing realm when it comes to putting a free show on a platform to get some attention. There is no equal to YouTube. I mean, whether you like them or you don't like them, I'll give you some accurate numbers here. I'm in front of my desktop. Let me just see here. YouTube right now, 30 billion visitors a month on YouTube. 30 billion, man. TikTok, 2 billion. 2 billion a month. 2 billion a month is how much what they're getting. So it's no comparison. It's not even the same sport, man. I bring it up because of perceptions. The perception a few years ago was that TikTok was the YouTube killer. It's not. It never has been. Um, but the reason I bring that up is because perceptions are easily manipulated, right? And I think perceptions are easier to manipulate today than they were in the past. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but I mean, I definitely feel like It's easier to manipulate a whole bunch of people's perception about something really fast. Like, it's easier than it was in 2011, you know? It's nothing for me to see a story, and then by, like, 12 hours later or, like, by the next day, like, everyone's got an opinion on it, o on something I know damn well nobody even knew about 24 hours ago. But all of a sudden, it's 24 hours later, everyone's got an opinion on this subject, and everybody's an expert supposedly. And it's like some polarizing topic that's got like two different sides, like arguing like crazy, like a bunch of maniacs on social media. Like, I don't remember it being like that in 2011 when I first came on, right? So, I mean, all that gets reflected in digital publishing, okay? And what I mean by that is um, digital publishing is about figuring out, you know, how to get people's attention, how to be captivating, how to get people to care about what you want to sell, right? And part of that means entering the conversation that's already happening in people's minds, right? So if the conversation that's happening in people's minds is some big convoluted mess where everyone is polarized to the max, everyone's an expert on something they didn't know anything about, 24 hours ago. Freaking Ukraine? Are you kidding me, dude? Do you remember when that happened a few years ago? The Ukraine? Everyone's flying Ukraine flags. Half these cats didn't know where the Ukraine was, like, until like the day before yesterday. Now they're flying a flag in their yard and everything else. It's ridiculous. I mean, it's just nuts. But it's cool though. It's fine, but it's perceptions, right? What I'm saying is perceptions have changed. The way people can manipulate perceptions has changed. And I would tell you that not just as someone who publishes digital content, um, I would tell you that just as a way to kind of stay grounded, you know? A lot of this stuff is just rhetoric, is rhetoric, right? It's just rhetoric. A lot of it's just rhetoric. It doesn't mean anything. People are just trying to be polarizing. People are just trying to like start, tribalistic battles among two factions. A lot of times, pitting them in the middle to get the attention. A lot of times attention translates to money. And it's a shame that some people get caught in the middle of it, you know? Pretty soon they're fighting for something they didn't even know what the hell it was like 2 days ago, and now all of a sudden they're vehemently fighting about it, you know? It's like, come on, man. Just turn it off, go mow your grass or something, go watch the football game. I mean, give it a rest, dude. The internet's still gonna be there in a couple days. Give it a rest, you know? You don't need to be on a tribe, you know? All these tribes are ridiculous. They don't mean anything, man. Half these things that people talk about mean nothing. They absolutely mean nothing. And that's different. That's different than 2011 when I first came on. In 2011, I could publish a product that taught people how to build a list, and it would be really good. People would like it. It would be really cool. Now, unless I really figure out a way to, create some kind of polarization with the product, it's harder, it's harder to captivate people now. In 2011, people could be captivated easier, right? And I think this is all a kind of it's like a side effect of the 24-hour news cycle, smartphones, people being inundated constantly on their devices all the time. It's all kind of like a side effect of that, you know? But I do personally see it turning around a little bit. I think these things move in cycles. I don't think things just stay, kind of the way they are. I think they're already kind of turning around a little bit, you know? I hear a lot of younger people, not even wanting to use the internet that much, you know? They wanna, like, read regular books. In fact, I was just, watching a video, recently about, Barnes& and Noble's making a comeback, right? Barnes& and Noble's making a comeback. They're opening up new bookstores. That's amazing. That's awesome. Man, I remember the '90s. I used to love hanging out in bookstores. And, Barnes& and Noble's making a comeback. That's a positive thing. They just opened 70 new stores up recently. So, I think that's really cool, you know? And, big Alexi in the house. "Hi, Cam, I'm on the internet." Well, that's awesome, Alexi. I too am on the internet, man. So, good to see you, and, thanks for tuning in, everybody. I guess, like, those are some of my thoughts on, kinda what has changed since 2011. I think it's a little harder to get people's attention now. Attention spans are smaller than they used to be for sure. A lot of the things that have changed, you know, it's like perceptions have changed, attention spans have changed, the details have changed, you know, where do I put my digital product? Oh, I'm gonna put it on Gumroad. In 2011, you wouldn't put it on Gumroad, you'd put it on your website, you know? In 2011, you'd put it on your website and, maybe you'd like use Ezine articles. A few years before that, you'd definitely be using Ezine articles to do content marketing to drive traffic to your ebook, you know? And then, a few years more past that, and like now it's not ebooks anymore. Now the perceived value is video courses. Video courses are the way to go. You know, a few years before I came on the internet, it was audio trainings. People were doing audio trainings, and me personally, man, I love audio trainings. I have published several audio trainings, and listen, audio trainings sell just fine. Audio trainings sell just fine, and that's another thing. The fundamentals haven't changed. Okay, I have sold $100 audio training, um, and I sold it just as easily as I've sold $100 video training. Just as easy, I sold $100 book, right? The fundamentals haven't changed, right? If they want what you have to sell, then publish it in whatever form you want to publish it in, as long as it is teaching them the things they want to be taught, If it's captivating, matter of fact, a course that I sold that did really good, it's called Lust for List Building. Of course, I retired. It's off the market right now. I'm an infrastructure zero, so everything's off the market. But Lust for List Building sold great. It was $97. You know, audio training. Another audio training I put out was called C-Step Method. C-Step Method audio training. I can't remember how much I was charging for that. I think it was like $97 too. But audio trainings are that was just the way that I wanted to publish trainings for a while, and whenever I had a chance, I would just publish audio trainings. In fact, I have an audio newsletter. It's not on the market right now. It's still being supported for existing members, but when I launch, I'm going to launch Epic Conversions Monthly. Okay. And here pretty soon, like within the week, I'm going to be launching Epic Conversions Monthly. And when I launch that, I'm going to include that audio newsletter, free subscription to that audio newsletter. And that's how it's going to move forward. It's a weekly audio newsletter. And what is it? It's basically a premium podcast, right? It's basically a premium podcast. It publishes weekly, and that's going to be a free subscription when people join Epic Conversions Monthly. So it's going to be like two subscriptions for the price of one. It's pretty sweet. But the point is, audio still sells, but the perception was for a while, audio is outdated. Audio is outdated. When I first came in business, audio was the perception was audio was outdated. Video is where it's at, man. Forget the audio. Video is where it's at. But I'll tell you something, man. I can't take a video training and go walking, right? Man, I go on these walks, man. I'm trying to get in shape, and I try to stay active. And I could go on walks and I could listen to these audio trainings, man. And I would, man. Sean Mize, Dan Kennedy, Ben Settle, some of these guys doing these audio trainings, man. I love this stuff, man. I'd listen to podcasts. I love audio trainings, man. I've learned a lot. Michael Sinoff, all these audio training interviews that he did. You guys ever check out Michael Sinoff's website? hardtofindseminars.com. Fantastic website. Fantastic. He's got all these interviews up there. He's got a ton of free ones too. You can go there and check it out. But he does all audio stuff. Big inspiration for me when it comes to audio trainings, and the way he conducts his interviews. Fantastic. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of the whole thing with the changes is it can be kind of a bummer sometimes, when things keep on changing a lot. If you used to do really well and used to make a lot of money, and now you feel like you don't make as much money because too much stuff has changed and stuff, it's easy to feel that way. And it's easy to get annoyed by all the changes too, man. Just not even about money, right? Just about like liking how things were, and then like boom, they're changing. They're always changing. Everything's always changing. And sometimes I feel like things are just changing for change's sake. There's no reason why they had to change this. You know what I mean? It happens all the time, man. People just change things for no reason. It's easy to feel that way, and, I know I felt that way before, but I'm telling you guys, I mean, you have to try to look past all these minor changes that are happening over the years because the fundamentals are still there. Human beings haven't really changed, okay? I mean, if you look in the history books of human beings from, like, the 1700s, guess what? They still had 10 fingers and 2 arms and 2 legs and, like, 1 brain, right? Way back in the 1600s, they still had that stuff. Yeah, and their brains, they thought about the same. I mean, think about it. Look at the literature from back in the day. I was just talking to my daughter about this earlier today, but look at the literature from back in the day. All right. What is all that literature about? It's all about kings and queens and people of prominence. You hardly ever see any literature about peasants and paupers, right? They're hardly ever the main characters in these stories. So, like, people were just as fascinated with, nobility back in the day as they are with celebrities today. People were fascinated by status back then, just like they are today. It's like the same thing. And when you think about that, that's just one aspect. Um, but it all boils down to this one idea that like the human brain hasn't really changed a whole lot. The same things that persuaded us back then persuade us now. And I find that very comforting because even though we do have to learn these new details, we have to learn how to use some of these new platforms and how it makes sense because, everybody's got a market they're trying to serve. Okay. And you can't ignore your market. You ignore your market, you're going to get punished, man. You're going to get punished with a lack of sales if you ignore your market. And if your market cares about something, you got to figure it out. A few years ago, my market really cared about NFTs. So I had to figure out what the hell an NFT was. Let me tell you something. The last thing that I wanted to figure out was a non-fungible token. That was the last thing I wanted to learn about. But there I was a few years ago trying to figure out what the hell an NFT was and why it matters. There I was, a few years before that trying to figure out what the hell a Bitcoin was and why it matters. Why? Just because my market cared about it. Um, so yeah, you can't really ignore your market, but it doesn't mean like to me, I always look at it when like these details change. I always look at it like, okay, here are the details that are changing. I understand the fundamentals of what makes someone buy something. Here are the details that are changing. Like, how do I fit into this story? Like, do I have 2 cents to even add to this conversation? How do I fit into this? Usually, at the very least, I can put out a product, where the whole product is the basis of the product is I'm going to learn what the hell this is. So if you want to know what the hell this is, you can buy my product. This is an over the shoulder case study of me signing up for this and signing up for that and figuring out what the hell this is and figuring out how I can use it in my business to make money. Right. So I kind of would do like a simple case study product when I'm trying to learn things. And those are very effective. Those work really good. But yeah, I mean, details change. Fundamentals don't really change. And I hope that's not groundbreaking to anybody. I don't feel like I'm saying anything that hasn't been said before. But yeah, I'm just telling you what I've observed over the last, 15 years or whatever. So anyways, I guess that's about it, man. I've kind of rambled on long enough. But listen, man, if you like this video, if you have enjoyed hanging out with me, give me a thumbs up, share this with someone you think might like it, and drop me a comment. Let me know you're live out there. I'm Cam from Epic Conversions, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace, everybody.